Another gloom and doom day, but there are signs of improvement, and we may actually squeeze out a Friday. That'll be hopefully halfway decent. We'll look ahead to the weekend, the long range. We've got severe weather tonight in parts of Texas and Louisiana, so we'll talk about that. All of it on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use the coupon code SPRING 2024 because if you do,
You will get 10 big percent off, Joe.
and whoops,
Yes.
and a big hello to everybody on the chat board tonight. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We are here Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. This will not be one of those Fridays and Saturdays where we'll be around. So we'll be back on Sunday at 7:35. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us. Turn your notifications on. And of course, if you like the show, what should they do if they like the show, Joe?
They should hit the like button so that we can get 100 likes, which we have not had in quite some time.
I know. Well, it's that time of year. It's slow from the weather standpoint. Uh, it turned out to be another gloom and doom type of day, especially for areas on Long Island and Connecticut and southeastern New England. Uh, Quite a bit of rain fell, actually, 2 to 3 inches or more in areas out to the east. I even saw on the radar for a while today. You had some rain on the radar.
We had some rain. The last that I looked, we had about a quarter of an inch of the wet stuff, but certainly nothing to compare to what they had out across central and especially eastern Long Island, where from late last night through right on into the first part of the day today, they were getting bombed, so to speak, with periods of moderate to heavy rainfall. And yeah, there were some spots out east that probably picked up in excess of three. I have not had a chance to take a look at any of the rainfall totals. I'm going to check right now to see if they're listed on the National Weather Service site out of New York. But it was quite a different story out east as compared to what we saw here in the lower Hudson Valley.
Well, I know Bill Hooper's on the chat board tonight, and he messaged me this morning that he had a few inches of rain where he is in central Long Island. Chuck Cardillo mowed the lawn today, so he managed to get that in. I'm not. I am. I'm optimistic on the weekend from the standpoint that it's not going to be a washout. Okay. In fact, I think it's quite possible that some areas don't see any rain this weekend. And my one issue, a concern, if you want to call it a concern, is that we're probably going to have some cloud cover to deal with from time to time, and maybe more time than more cloud cover around than you might like. But at least at least for the most part, it should not rain.
Yeah, I think much of this weekend, except for maybe Saturday night, where we might get brushed by a little bit of shower activity, maybe. But it looks like, for the most part, it doesn't look like a bad weekend. If you want to do something out of doors, like mow your lawn, you just might be able to do that because I don't have anything in the forecast. My forecast on Facebook Saturday, I said actually clouds early, then some developing afternoon sun on Saturday with temps near 70, and then sunny to partly cloudy and milder with maybe mid 70s for Sunday. By the way, Joe, I've got the rainfall. Now, I'm not going to say it's a disgrace because, but it is, after all,
A disgrace.
seven,
It's an outrage.
it's 7:39 p.m. We've had
Excuse me.
significant rain over portions of the tri-state area, and yet this rainfall total amount for from the New York City Weather Service, 10:18 a.m. And many of these observations were taken back around 6 and 7 in the morning. So we've not had any update on any of these in over 12 hours. I only say that because as of 8:25 this morning at Orient out in eastern Long Island, 4.31 inches. And I know they had more.
Wow.
I know they had more on top of that. So 4.31 as of this morning in Orient. East Hampton 3.89. Hampton Bays 3.44. The airport at Montauk 3.36. West Hampton Airport just a shade under 3 inches at 2.98. And then as you head to the west, the amounts gradually drop off. Miller Place 1.39. Islip Airport 1.34. Islip Terrace 1 inch of rain. And Oakland Gardens in Queens 1 inch of rain. So you could see that there really was some heavy duty wet weather way out to the east.
Yeah, I'm looking at Islip's climate report today. So this is for from midnight to I'm trying to see what till 4 p.m. They only had 900ths of an inch of rain at Islip from midnight,
Right.
and actually so far this month 2.84. So I guess you had to be east of there that well, at least the radar kind of showed it was more on the eastern part of the island than in even in the central, west central Suffolk. It started to tail off quite a bit. Uh, but yeah, there's no public information statement. There's nothing.
No, there's nothing.
Well, I guess, maybe they didn't get around to it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe they were shorthanded today.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at what's going on because I know David Schwartz on the chat board has been busy throwing up severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings that are going on at the moment down in Texas, and we've got a large area here. We've got a severe thunderstorm watch as you head into West Texas. And there are a couple of warnings and even a flash flood warning in there too. And then in southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana, we have a tornado watch with a string, an east-west string of flash flood warnings up. And I see a couple of tornado warnings up there too. Flood watches that go all the way into southern Alabama and into the westernmost part of the Florida Panhandle. Also, some flood watches in a couple of counties, northeast Kentucky, northwest Tennessee, northeast Arkansas, northwest Tennessee, western Kentucky, southeast Missouri, and southernmost Illinois. Everywhere else, there's some wind issues up in the northwest, but everywhere else, at least from the standpoint of precipitation, we really don't have enough to meet the threshold of a watch or a warning. And I'm looking at the satellite loop here, and you can see the swirl that's offshore, but I can also see drier air that's from Maine and New Hampshire is now cutting down into Connecticut, and the clouds are beginning to break up there. And also the western edge of the cloud line that's in eastern Pennsylvania, that is thinning out as well. So I guess this is finally starting. This was the one fear this week that this system was going to linger around on Thursday, and it did. But that's starting to slide. And then we have a gap in between where the weather's okay. I was in there today. We had blue sky and sunshine here just about all day long here in North Georgia. And you'll see on the loop as well a lot of lightning strikes going on in East Texas and over into Louisiana, and this is what's causing the problems. You also have a line of storms that's swinging out of New Mexico and into West Texas, which is why SPC's got the severe thunderstorm watch up there. And this system earlier this week looked like it was going to have maybe a little bit more punch to it, maybe lift up a little bit more to the northeast, but it does look like it's not quite doesn't quite have it when it comes to intensity and structure as it moves eastward. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see this along with a frontal boundary slide eastward, and then the low is going to probably get off the North Carolina coast and move more southeast than anything else, which with everything seems to be wanting to be suppressed. Maybe the fact that this system over us now the low that's offshore, because it took so much longer for it to get out of the way, is leaving less room for the system behind it.
And the one thing about the area around the southern United States, the Southland or the Gulf Coast, is that the humidity must be incredibly high. Key West, Florida, Joe. We mentioned a few days ago that they tied Fort Lauderdale for the warmest nighttime overnight temperature at 85. And today, what they did, or actually last night, what happened to them was that they had. I just want to make sure here. Yeah, all-time record heat at Key West. The highest heat index on record was tied today. I'm not sure if it's on record for the entire year or it was just for the month of May. 115-degree heat index at Key West, Florida. And you say to yourself, well, there's no way you can get that warm because of the fact that Key West, my God, they're surrounded on all sides by water, which should modify any heat. Well, I don't know. 115-degree heat index, that's pretty up there, pretty high. And again,
I'm
it's
kind of surprised that, maybe why did, it's not like they don't put up heat advisories from time to time in Florida, particularly in, North Florida, but you do see it in South Florida as well. I'm just kind of surprised that I really hadn't seen anything along those lines.
yeah, yeah. Well, what can you say except that if this is the way the season is kicking off in Florida, it's only May. One can only imagine what it's going to be like June, July, and August. Oh
Well, these
man.
are the four. On the on the Weather Service office for Miami, Florida. These are the forecast lows for Friday morning, right? I think it says this is for tonight's low temp, so I assume this is for Friday morning. 78 for Fort Lauderdale, 78 for Miami, 74 for Homestead, 78 for Naples, Everglades City 76, Flamingo, Florida at 79, and Palmdale at 72, up near Lake Okeechobee. Clewiston is at 73. Let me see if they did anything, you know, hang on, where's my mouse? Oh, mouse. Hang on. Let's see if I can let me bring up Miami again, and we'll go to, I assume this should take us to Key West. Yes, it's 89 there now. Lower 80s, the forecast low for the Keys. West northwest wind at 10 to 15, becoming southwest to west at 5 to 10. A 5% chance of rain. Sunset tonight is at 8:04. Sunrise tomorrow morning at 6:42. So there you have it. So apparently, yeah, these warm nights, I can't imagine, you know, 85 to 86, 87 degrees for a morning low. I just can't.
And in my days living in Throgs Neck in the Bronx as a young boy, our house was a brick house, and it faced toward the west northwest. And so during the afternoon hours in the summertime, that sun was just beating down on the house. And I could recall not too many times, thank God, but on a few occasions when the temperature at, let's say, 11 o'clock at night was right around 90 degrees, and it was frustrating to get the temperature down below, let's say, 85 during the overnight hours. So I know how it feels. You know,
Did
and
you
and
have
those,
did you have air conditioning?
well, not in my room, and neither did my sister. So what we would do is we would evacuate downstairs into the living room where there was air conditioning, and so we'd end up sleeping down there. And we used to say how fun that was in a way in thinking back because we used to stay up literally all night long and just chat and talk about friends and especially relatives.
Yeah.
And those are the days. But so I mean, it wasn't all that bad, but I couldn't exist. And in fact, the first thing I ever bought, Joe, when I got a job, when I got my job at that private weather forecasting service, I think I used my first paycheck to buy an air conditioner and put it in my window. That was the one thing I always wanted was some air conditioning. And because it was a relatively small room, what I would do sometimes in cases like that, I would turn the air conditioner on high, close the door, and just let the whole room refrigerate, so to speak, until it was time for me to go in and go to bed. The temperatures then were like probably in the 60s.
Well, I lived in Throgsneck too. We only had one air conditioner. Eventually, we wound up having two.
Yeah.
One big one that cooled off the house was in theory okay. Didn't always work. And then my parents had one in their bedroom, but us kids had to suffer.
Yes.
Anyway, radar's actually improved quite a bit in the Northeast. There's just a couple of showers off of Cape Cod, and that's it, and a couple of spits in the Hudson Valley. Quiet all the way down to Florida. But meanwhile, here's where it's going a bit crazy tonight. We've got a bunch of flash flood warnings in the green boxes. A couple of severe thunderstorms. Even there's a tornado warning that popped up there in southeast Texas, probably not that far from the Houston area. Let me just see what's on Tornado HQ, and we have in Texas in Galveston, Harris, and Brazoria County. We have a tornado warning that was issued 17 minutes ago and is about to expire in 9 minutes. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Magnolia Park or over Second Ward, moving southeast at 45 miles an hour. So they're moving quick, and you can see there's a slew. Again, a bunch of flash flood and severe thunderstorm warnings. Right now it is 7:50, coming up on 7:53 Eastern time. So if you're watching this on a replay, by all means remember that everything is dated. So make sure you go to weather.gov to your local National Weather Service office to get the latest on severe weather. Also seeing some strong thunderstorms, some severe thunderstorms in West Texas. That's where the severe thunderstorm watch is up. In the meantime, we've got a few scattered showers in and around northern Indiana and into northern Illinois. Some scattered showers in western Illinois, some showers and a couple of thunderstorms in southeast Missouri, and also seeing some showers and a couple of thunderstorms in parts of the North Dakota and into eastern Montana. The Storm Prediction Center tonight showing you can see those two watch boxes there. The blue one is the severe thunderstorm watch. The red one is the tornado watch that is up, and that is valid until, let's see, the tornado watch is valid until 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and you can see the area that it covers: Southwest Louisiana, Southeast Texas, and the severe thunderstorm watch. Oh, even have a another potential severe thunderstorm watch being indicated possibly for southeast Louisiana. So they're saying a 40% chance that they could be putting up a watch for southeast Louisiana. So, definitely if you're watching this on a replay, go to weather.gov for the latest. Slight to enhance risk in the areas impacted from southeast New Mexico to southeast Louisiana. We're looking at a 2 to 5% tornado risk and also a 2% tornado risk in parts of southern Missouri and northwestern Arkansas. I'm sorry, northeastern Arkansas, northwestern Tennessee, and western Kentucky. Marginal risk covers that area, small area of marginal risk also in southeast Wisconsin and in southeast Florida. They have a marginal risk, although there's not much of anything going on the radar there. Now, tomorrow, we have a marginal to slight risk from South Texas to East Southeast Texas so from South Texas to Southeast Texas. So South Texas, by the way, in case you don't know, is the area indicated, places like Corpus Christi, Brownsville, that's South Texas. Houston, Galveston, uh, Beaumont, Port Arthur, that's Southeast Texas. Across southern Louisiana into southern Alabama and Mississippi, and also into a small portion of southwest Georgia, with marginal risk to the north of that. And that also comes with a 2 to 5% tornado risk for tomorrow, and hail, 15% chance of 2 inch diameter or more hail being indicated right along the from southeast Louisiana down into South Texas. And then when we go to day three, it's from North Carolina, pretty much all the way down to the Florida Panhandle and west into southeast Louisiana, where we have a marginal risk for severe weather. I think the bigger deal here, Joe, is going to be the rain because they've had so much of it, particularly in East Texas and western Louisiana. And it certainly could be, there's another band of several inches being indicated by WPC on top of what's already fallen from southeast Texas all the way east into Alabama, 2 to 3 inches across much of Georgia. I think the rain is probably the bigger deal here. Not that the severe weather isn't a big deal, but you have that, and then I think you got the heavy rain on top of it.
Yeah, and the Northeast you could see is in line for precipitation over the next 7 days, but it's toward the shade of that very light green, which indicates that in many areas the amounts may be generally less than, oh,
That's
perhaps a tenth of an inch or less.
no, a 0.01 to 0.10.
Right.
Yep, so WPC seems to think that uh, there'll be very little, if any, rain over this weekend.
Yeah, like I said, there might be something perhaps Saturday night if we get brushed by a system that'll be passing off to our south. But really, if we don't get anything then it looks like we may be dry right on through the first half of next week. And also through the first half of next week, a gradual moderation in temperatures. We could be talking about temperatures in the mid or upper 70s, maybe even near 80 by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week.
There will be rain in Virginia, West Virginia, down in the North Carolina, though, on the order of an inch and a half to 2 inches there. Also in pockets of Kentucky, uh, eastern Kentucky, and also in westernmost Kentucky, southern Illinois, southeast Missouri, northeast Arkansas, northwest Tennessee. And then you've got the big band that goes from East Texas across southern Louisiana into Alabama, where we're talking about 3 to maybe as much as 5 additional inches of rain over the next 7 days. So really, it does seem when we look at the upper air that all the energy that's in that northern part of the jet stream is going to be uh, not nothing is phasing with this southern system. This is another one of these systems that's come in off of Southern California and moving across the south. And there's just enough of a westerly flow across the northern Great Lakes and New England to keep this from lifting up the East Coast. Instead, you'll notice the upper low just kind of nudges up into West Virginia, and you start to think, okay, well, maybe, could it possibly, but there's nothing in the north to bring it up. So, in fact, there's ridging going on from upstate New York and New England up into eastern Canada. So this thing just basically gets shoved underneath and starts to move southeast off the North Carolina coast and then out. And then now you got troughing again in the west. So I wonder whether, as we move into next week, that we're going to start to see another round of severe weather, possibly for the plains, with this sort of setup. And then eventually points east into the upper Mississippi Valley and Great Lakes. But you're right. I mean, there's just nothing here. Once if we get away with this weekend not seeing much, if any, rain, I think you're probably good into Wednesday, and then maybe on later Wednesday to some kind of front that goes by. But even that might wind up being weak. And this run of the GFS does have ridging in the eastern part of the United States for much of the Memorial Day holiday weekend, which is unlike what the European has today, which has rain on Saturday and rain on Sunday for the weekend. But I haven't been paying too much attention lately to the European, so um, I'm not leaning in that direction. But there's reason for optimism here. We may get a break from this gloom and doom.
Oh, that was my cue. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Are you there? Oh, yeah. I'm looking right now at a trailer for some kind of a stupid movie that popped up, House of the Dragon, season two. This is one of the things that comes along and interrupts the flow when I'm.
I honestly I don't understand that because they're not supposed to put up ads until for at least 30 minutes into the show. Oh, but on
Oh,
the other hand, we are 30 minutes. Well, we're 25 minutes into the show. All right.
well,
Well, there's our low goes out. Here comes the next one. So we're squeezing in some drier air. Winds are going to be northeast tomorrow, but it'll be a drier flow. The satellite shows that. And then Saturday, you got all this shower activity to the west and to the south. But again, much of it winds up getting suppressed. Some of it tries to reach up into Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey briefly, but then by the time we get to later Saturday night, Sunday morning, the low is along the North Carolina coast, and everything is moving to the east southeast. So yeah, I mean, unless we get a can't rule out a minor interruption of clouds and maybe a couple of showers, perhaps later Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. But after that, it should most of the time I think it should be fine. And you're right, next Monday and Tuesday look good, and it should warm up with more of a southwest wind, perhaps. Chance for some showers looks like along about Wednesday night or Thursday with some kind of front. And then I'm looking at the Memorial Day holiday weekend. Looks like Saturday and Sunday look okay. A dying front Sunday night and a dying front late on Monday. I don't know. We said this yesterday that it bears repeating. Memorial Day holiday weekend, you normally lose one of the 3 days, and sometimes you lose two, and every once in a while you lose all three. I would say that you're probably going to lose. You're going to lose one of the 3 days at this point. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
well, if you want to look that far ahead, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have a
and
much
I
better.
do want to look that far ahead.
Well, we'll have a much better. Well, of course, you're Joe but
Yes.
uh, the winds. It was rather gusty out there today, at least along my way. I think gusts were in the 20 or 25 mile per hour range at times. Winds will be still rather breezy tonight. I think 5, maybe 15 miles an hour from the northeast. Then an east northeasterly wind, as you pointed out, Joe, but it'll be a dry east northeast flow, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Then light east southeasterly tomorrow night, and then light and variable, still coming more out of an easterly direction on Saturday. I think we will eventually switch over to a warmer or a balmier southwesterly direction. In fact, that'll be reflected with the temperatures, which Saturday will be around 70. I think Sunday more like mid 70s, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, mid to upper 70s, maybe even in a few spots touching 80 degrees, and we're still within range of 80 perhaps on Thursday, although, as you just pointed out, maybe some showers, if not late Wednesday, maybe Wednesday night into early Thursday, and then back we go to drier weather, which hopefully will hold on into the beginning, at least, of the upcoming holiday Memorial Day weekend.
The Hurricane Center is still looking at this area in, I guess that's orange, is south of the coast of Mexico. They have a 40% chance that this could become a tropical depression early next week. They've also highlighted an area to the west of that, a small area of low pressure several hundred miles offshore the coast of southwestern Mexico, producing an area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Some gradual development of this system is possible in the next day or so, while it moves very little. But by the weekend, this low is forecast to merge with another system to the east. So basically, they got a 20% chance that this could do something between now and the weekend before it gets absorbed by the orange area that's out here in the Pacific. And nothing in the Atlantic at the moment for the next 7 days. So, um, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Jay
All right.
Justin Hey, Justin B on the chat board asks, do the Joes agree with the experts, and he's got experts in quote marks, that have said that this year will be a much more active hurricane season than normal? Well, it's a La Nina summer coming up, and when we have La Ninas, that usually tilts toward higher than normal activity, hurricane wise, in the Atlantic basin. And also, we've been hearing about how much warmer than normal the Atlantic Ocean waters are. compared to other years. At this time, many people have been talking about the fact that the water now is about as warm as it normally would get by the time we get to July. So if we have a very warm ocean water and we have a La Nina in effect, yeah, you'd have to think that this is going to be an above normal year, regardless of the fact that it'll be quiet for the next week or so. Who is to say what is going to happen, especially once we get past the middle part of August? That's usually when hurricane or tropical cyclone activity starts to rev up. And one thing that we've seen in recent years, Joe, is the fact that the place that seems to be the magnet for tropical activity is not necessarily Florida or the Gulf coastal states, but up north, up in the Maritimes, Nova Scotia. They've had their fair share, and Newfoundland as well. They've had their fair share of tropical activity these past few years. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we see any tropical storms or hurricanes threaten that part of North America. Again, especially when we get into the deep into the hurricane season after the middle part of August, and the hurricane season officially will begin in just a matter of 15 days on June the 1st.
Well, look, last year we had an El Nino, which is supposed to be subdued activity in the Atlantic, and it was the fourth most active season on record, something like that. So now we have the La Nina, which is all, or will be going into a La Nina, depending on how strong it is or isn't. But if we have even slight La Nina conditions, would make things more favorable for development and for active, a very active season. The one thing I would just point out, and I did bring up the loop, but I think it's worth paying attention to, is we got to watch the Saharan dust because that's an inhibitor of tropical cyclone development. So we'll watch to see when these plumes of dust move off the African coast. Looks like there was some, one little patch in there in the Western Gulf might have been from an earlier, uh, round of dust that moved along. But that could be something that might inhibit tropical cyclone development if we have it, during the August September time frame when the systems are coming off the African coast. But that's, I'm just, there's nothing magical about what I said or really that insightful. There's every year we've got this, the dust situation. So, we'll just have to watch to see how that plays out.
Well, this is the time of the season when Sahara dust is a factor to a degree, but that usually kind of fades out or goes back into the background when we get into deep into the hurricane season. It's rare that we see Sahara dust play a major role in hurricane activity. In let's say late August or September. But if we when we do see it, it's usually right around this time of the year.
All right. All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy to wrap up the week. And tonight, we are doing the average high temperature in the month of May for the following five cities. And we're going to start with Atlanta, Georgia, Joe. What is the average high temperature for Atlanta, Georgia in the month of May? The whole month of May.
Well, how about I'll take a nice round number here. Average high temperature in May, I will say 87.
J Dog says 86. All Star 10 says 88. Uh, Miss Fowlerite says 82. Rich Rothmansky is the winner here. 81 is the average high for the month of April. I'm sorry, for
Not,
May. For May.
not as I thought.
All right, let's look at Baltimore.
All right. Well, Baltimore, I would say, how about 75?
You and Keith James are in Snake Country.
Oh,
Uh,
well,
but coming at it from opposite directions.
so
Uh,
that means
which
Mansky winner, right?
Yes, another Rich Rothmansky, Frank R, William Uber, Patrick Darcy, 76 is the average high. How about Boston?
Chuck Cardillo, by the way, said 774.
Yeah.
Uh, Uh,
Fat finger key, I think, for him.
Boston, Boston.
Boston.
I would say, how about 69?
Very a good guess. A little high. Um, Patrick Darcy is in Snake Country, and so is William Uber at 68. But Mr. Rothmansky's on a roll tonight. 67. 67. Now, let's do Chicago, Illinois. Chicago.
Chicago. Chicago, I would say, how about uh, how about 65?
A little too low, Joe. Miss Fowler and Christinapedia are in Snake Country there. Patrick Darcy nails it. They had 71. Patrick Darcy has 72, and so does Carol DeCara, and that is the correct answer, 72. And finally, tonight, the last one is Dallas. Dallas, Texas.
Hmm. What did we say Atlanta was again?
Uh,
71?
81 for
80?
Atlanta. Right, so
80?
this is Dallas.
Ah, how about 87?
Good guess. A smidge too high. A smidge too high. Craig Carlberg at 86, very close. Patrick Darcy at 86, but Carol DeCara and Maggie P get it at 85. 85. And Vincent Croce also 85 for Dallas Fort Worth. For Dallas. I don't know about Fort Worth
Yeah.
because they're two different places.
Yes.
Um, all right. So anyway, I don't have any plans for the weekend. I don't know about you.
Well, tomorrow's my daughter-in-law's birthday, so we'll probably stop over and say hello, and we'll use that also as an excuse to see our grandson. And over the weekend, it doesn't look like there's anything significant or substantial happening. And when you have a weekend where you don't have anything significant or substantial, that sometimes is good news.
No, I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't have anything planned. I'll probably do some yard work and, you know, well, depending on, we've got showers and thunderstorms in the forecast for the next 5 days. So depending on when those happen and how heavy they are will determine how much, if any, time I get to spend outdoors. So anyhow, I hope everybody has a great weekend ahead. And of course, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the descriptor to this podcast. And please use the coupon code Spring 2024 because if you do, you will get
10% off, and Dennis Cassier, you're probably right. Dennis Cassier writes on the chat board, Renato will probably find a project for me with 3 smiley emojis, and I'm sure she will.
Maggie P. Have fun going to Costco getting tomato plants. When I went last week, they had that and actually had some beautiful hydrangeas, but I had already gotten my fill of hydrangeas. All right, Joe, you have a great weekend. Folks, we'll see you Sunday night at 7:35 p.m. Bye-bye.
Nighty night.